What's up, everybody, and welcome. It's now April 1st. This is not a joke of a podcast. We're very serious about this. We're here to talk about something that bridges off of yesterday's conversations, where if you listen to yesterday's pod, I talked through a lot of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry's quotes from down at the owners meeting, which is popping. We get 3 different mega interview sessions that are a lot more relaxed in the hotel environment. So if you missed that, go check it out, because there are some quotes that matter from what they said. Other stuff is just filler and keeping your plans a little bit disguised. But I wanted to get that out after Kevin Stefanski spoke on Monday morning. So check that out. You're going to have some more film rooms going live, including a really mega session on Travis Hunter soon. I really think I need to prove my point on this. So we're going to get that Travis Hunter one done soon enough. Go check that out. If you're listening to this on the audio side, would greatly appreciate whatever you're listening to, Spotify, Apple, a 5-star review, maybe write us up a nice little report. That's how we help, reach more Browns fans, come up in more search queries, all that good stuff. So we would appreciate that. If you're on the YouTube for the opener, we would also appreciate a 5. Well, you can't do that. We can give a thumbs up, and we can give a subscription if you're not already subscribed. If you are subscribed to YouTube, come over to the website, check us out, give us a free trial. I think you'll really appreciate the community we have growing, budding, and becoming a great part of all Browns coverage. Really, I think the stuff we're doing over here, really insightful deep dive stuff, which we have great opportunities to get any level. And then we have a founders channel, which is a Slack dedicated channel where we talk Browns all day, every day. The writers, people who really are into this website and care about it deeply, come in there, check it out. And then you can get yourself a free hat, which is on the top of Peter Moses's head right now as I welcome in and say, what's up, man? How's life in Spideyverse over there?
I'm great, man. Spidey and his amazing friends, as we were talking about, doing some dad potting before you pressed go here. I'm good, man. I can't complain. I'm excited to, this is the Browns' real season, Jake, when we can talk about all the things that aren't happening on the field, all the speculation, all the rumors, all the tape you get to break down of these young college boys as they trend towards the NFL draft. It's a great time. It's a great time. Happy to be here. And yeah, this is the official Browns Film Breakdown hat. Swanky logo, if I say so myself. Just so much going on here, and yet so understated. You should get one. You should get one. They're sweet.
You should get one. They're great. We got them in white too, if you like that. If that's your style. If that's your style, right? If you don't want to get it dirty, you can get it in orange. It's all available. Go to the website, check it out. brownsfilmbreakdown.com. The biggest news of the day happens to be the owners getting in front of the microphone and providing us enough content to talk about for like a month straight here leading up to the draft, because recently Deshaun Watson has been posting for the first time some rehab videos, making you think he's in the Browns facility. It's got the team gear on, talking about showing you the real person, whatever. He's going to go on his own journey of whatever that is for self-discovery about the football player that he is now. But what has made people a little uneasy is like, all right, is there a future here? But I think that future ended today. I think there's a couple different pieces of discussion that can happen based on what Jimmy and Dee said in front of the microphone down there in Florida, having a great time. Weather looks beautiful. I'm pretty jealous of folks down there covering it. But what happened is a quote that I think ends everything that Deshaun Watson has done in Cleveland, period. It's not coming around full circle here, because when he got in front of the microphone, he was asked the particular question about, did this trade fail? Like, where are you guys at on it? And his direct quote, and I'm following from, various folks who are down there covering it, Daniel Oyefusi, who does a great job covering for the team market side of ESPN, which goes to the Team City stuff, is we'll just read it here. He said, we took a big swing, and this is Jimmy again. We took a big swing and missed with Deshaun. So that's the first admission that things have failed. Like, that first sentence is huge. For them to say outwardly that it has failed, we swung and we missed, is massive. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't. And we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him. So that's an interesting line. If we're picking this apart line by line, basically they're saying that there was an agreement in the decision room that this was the guy, this was the player they needed to go over the top at that point. We thought we had him, we didn't, and we gave up a lot of picks to get him. So we've dug ourselves deep into that hole. So I mean, just from that part of things, we'll pick apart the last sentence, which is huge, in just a second. But that is an admission that not only did they miss on the trade, like, it's over. We missed, it didn't work out. We've dug ourselves into a hole. We got to get out of it. So your reaction to that, I think, is the place that we should start, Peter, because that's a pretty big admission at this point, with, in all honesty, Watson has a contract that could keep him here until the end of the 27 season, where he could then be released after a second season. But I think it's the most realistic part of this is what I should say is a 27 off season after two more, 25 and 26. But I think it's pushing to the point now that it's hard to envision him even hovering. Like, if I was Watson reading this and he thinks he's got a chance to come back, this is like closing the book. But I'm curious what you think of it.
I think it's important to acknowledge, and you, Andrew, other people who've been on the pod, myself, have been living, all of the fans, we've been living in this reality where the team for the last 3 years has insisted, no matter what we saw and no matter what the results were, that the Watson trade was good. And with one casual interview in a very beige conference room in a Palm Beach hotel, the Haslams just kind of finally popped that balloon, popped that facade for all of us to just acknowledge the thing that everyone has seen, whether you defend Watson or not. It's been bad, and he's probably not coming back after ripping his Achilles twice in 3 months. So to just, have that truth wash over me personally is relieving. It honestly makes me feel good. It makes me feel hopeful. And maybe that's just because the bar is so low from how the team has been articulating this up till yesterday. But it made me feel really good. And I think it's in the world that we live in, just like sometimes saying the truth and letting us all live in that space of like we all have an agreed on truth is rare. And even though I have a lot of feelings about the Haslams, I commend them for coming out and doing this. And maybe it's years too late. Maybe they shouldn't have done it at all. All of that is true. But, from a last season where we just had nothing to hold on to feel good or optimistic, it's just nice to hear them acknowledge it. And it's also, okay, how do we move forward from here? And that doesn't dismiss all of that other drama or all of that other, not being truthful about the reality of the situation. But it does feel very much, in movies, often rain signifies like a truth or a washing over. And in some way, this feels like the Browns organization in Shawshank when Tim Robbins climbs out of the tunnel and is like looking up at the sky, ripping his shirt off. And that's kind of what this feels like, where we can just kind of all finally collectively be like, yes, this is done. It didn't work. And now we have to figure out how we can move forward. So it does feel like a new chapter. No matter how you feel about it, we're all entering it together, which is just refreshing.
Yeah. And Haslam noted that the swing and miss on Deshaun, I think he said, was largely due to him getting hurt, suffering 3 significant injuries, the shoulder and then the Achilles 2 times now. And that's fine, right? That's fine.
Sure.
I do think that the process to me is fine. Again, I understand a lot of the decision making that went into chasing the quarterback. I understand a lot of that. And the biggest part of the whole conversation, I think that people have wanted to figure out this truth, and it still remains a little murky. But he said it was an entire organization decision, and it ends with D&I, so hold us accountable. So a lot of folks see the hold us accountable and think that he's kind of putting up a human shield to protect Kevin and to protect Andrew. And I think, to me, this is just me, and I think this speaks to the larger are the Haslams good owners debate. If I made a move like this, which at the time was not just we are interested in Deshaun Watson, because there were other teams, fine, interested in Watson. It's that, but also moving on from more loved than hated at the time quarterback Baker Mayfield, the first pick in 2018. So it wasn't nothing in terms of like, we don't have any other quarterback, let's go get the next. Like, Mayfield was under contract another season. So what I'm trying to say is the scope of the hugeness, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, it was a massive decision that had ramifications to the immediate, to the future, because of the picks and all of it. And if, again, this decision was something that Andrew Berry and Kevin, I don't want to go down this path very deep, but I am of the belief that he's not lying about holding themselves accountable, because I do think the question was posed in the meeting room. Do you guys think we can win with this quarterback at a higher level than what we are right now? To which Andrew and Kevin would have agreed. And I think, to me, again, it turned into Haslam saying, then do whatever it takes to get him. What does it take to get him? Go get him, Andrew. And then Andrew brought it back to the Haslams that, hey, we're kind of out. We presented a contract. We presented trade terms. We were in the running on the trade terms thing. We got approval to be in the terms. Like, he's got to decide. Because if you recall, Watson got like 3 teams to get approved with trade packages. Then it was him picking the team. And they were approved, but he went a different direction. And then it turns into, hey, we're out. And then I believe this. I will believe this until I have some book is written otherwise. Jimmy then said, what does it take to get him? What about guaranteeing the contract? Because what happened here, the Haslams risked everything, their league-wide reputation, to give a contract that the league hates. The league has proven that they hate it. There's been no one emulating that style of contract to the degree at which that contract was given. Not a Kirk Cousins short-term deal. I'm talking the big 5-year guaranteed 230 spot. Some owners can't even afford it, let alone can they do it to have the money in escrow and all that stuff. So my thing here is, I truly do believe the Haslams were the driving force in making that happen. They asked Kevin, they asked Andrew, are you in line with it? Can you win with this player? Can you do that? We'll handle the PR. Can you win with him? To which they agreed, because at that time, I think we all thought they could. Now, there's the scope of decision-making around the person, the mental part of it, being hated, being able to handle that, sitting out a lot of games. They missed on all that. We've talked about it. But I am not going to sit here and say that the Haslams, who then meddled, I know, listen, was I in the room? No, but I know that Jimmy and Depot deeply meddled in that offensive staff to get it all turned around from Alex Van Pelt to the next group that ultimately failed and has let Kevin rewrite his coaching staff on the offensive side. He's doing this. Jimmy drove the bus. He had a huge part in that. And I think the biggest part in that, him and D, 70-30 around the organization. You guys can agree with me, and Peter, you can disagree with me on this whole topic. That's fine. But I feel very confident in it, because at the root of all of it, if Andrew and Kevin sort of strong-armed him into doing this, we're not signing extensions unless you go get us this quarterback, unless you let us do this contract, they would be gone. They would not be here. If Kevin wanted the staff that he received last year with the results the organization received, he would be gone. This is who Haslam has always been. I think Haslam still has his hands in the pot. He's stirring it. He cannot get away entirely. He's still stirring it. Does he do some good things, Peter? Does he have a lot of money? Does he help them rewrite decisions? Does he help them add void years to create money on top of the cap and get creative with it? Yes, he does some things well, but I cannot take serious the opinion that he is not still meddling, at least the last 3 or 4 years. And maybe his now, because he's let Kevin rewrite his offensive staff with guys that clearly align with his true vision. And maybe the things he's saying about, we're not going to force a quarterback over the next 2 seasons. We're not, this is the direct quote is essentially like, we want them to find a guy that they believe in. And long story short is like, that doesn't mean we're going to force a quarterback at pick 2. We want to take the approach of, even if we need a year or 2 of a veteran, we'll find the long-term quarterback. So I think the Haslams, more Jimmy than anything else, is still squarely in the mix with Depot. They're in the trenches of these decisions, and maybe they're reeling it back a little bit now because they drove the bus on a couple big things that failed. If you look at it, if Jimmy's big dog was, we're going to go get Deshaun Watson, and then his big dog, and this was reported by Albert Breer, that hey, we are going to rewrite the offensive staff because we haven't seen Deshaun develop the way we wanted. I think it's so very simple and logical to see where he's kind of pulling back at that and saying, hey, maybe I should let those guys drive more of these things, these decisions. And again, I just don't think it's hard to see where he got off the rails a little bit and is now letting them, because if they drove those decisions, both the quarterback choice and the decision on the offensive staff, they'd be gone. Like, when has Jimmy ever been this uber patient person who keeps giving them the wrong answer? Tell me, Peter. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm opening it up to you.
Listen, I've been watching The White Lotus, so I'm now an expert in Buddhism. And something that I want to say, which I think might be a cop-out, but is me also, again, looking to the future, is I blame Kevin, Andrew, and ownership. I do. I'm sure they all had a hand in this. And I think for us who have been kind of, again, because we haven't heard the Haslams come out and say this was a screw up and it's on us, we have had to play this game of like trying to figure out whose fault it was. But the thing is, when you just say, we screwed up, sorry, that kind of diffuses all of that tension of like, who's really to blame? To me, they're all to blame. And they all took that blame together. And clearly, in some regard, a Jimmy Haslam of 5 or 6 years ago, even if it was his fault, probably would have fired everybody anyways. And I think there is something to say here that at least they're coming out and saying, this is on us. We're figuring it out. I still have faith. And now they might blow it up next year, but I just don't think it matters anymore. And I think you're definitely probably right about the offensive staff. And I think the organization felt pot committed on Watson. They looked at this board and they said, we have put in too much and risked too much with our reputation, financially, with this window we have of really talented players to not do everything we can. And that included some old bad habits from probably Jimmy in meddling with the staff, for sure. But that's over. Ken Dorsey's not here anymore. Like, we have an interesting staff that you chronicled really well. I am intrigued by some of the hires that they made. They might not work out, but they're at least interesting hires. From Bill Musk, we finally have a quarterback coach, for God's sakes. Like, they're real interesting changes. Tommy Rees is interesting as an OC. I mean, there's just some really interesting things happening. And I think everything you've said is totally true. And maybe I'm not holding on to the vitriol or the pain like I should have for the last 3 years that were wasted. But they're gone. Like, those times are gone. And I'm really not trying to be super optimistic Browns fan, but like, I don't know. When I hear Jimmy Haslam say we're going to be patient, I get pretty excited about Travis Hunter, dude. That gets me pumped up as a football fan. And that might be Joe Flacco throwing to him, which could, he could break both of his kneecaps and shoulder throwing a ball at any point if he's in a Browns uniform. It might be Kenny Pickett, which would be a whole other bag of pain. But I'm excited for some level of continuity, even at the cost of that continuity. So I'm sure. The other thing I would say too, Jake, and maybe again I'm just totally lost my mind. Are we sure the Haslams are like the worst owners? Are we sure they're maybe not even owners you would want to have in your football team? Like, without going through every single organization. Sure, there are the Rooneys, who I will just say, by the way, right now, do you want to be the Cleveland quarterback situation or do you want to be the Steelers quarterback situation? And I say that earnestly. I know I'm wearing a Browns hat right now, but you can't tell me that the Steelers have had a better plan or someone who's going to go out there and take a Watson-style swing. And they just brought back Mason Rudolph, who's starting for them right now, and are begging Aaron Rodgers, who's been distinctively mid for now the last couple of years outside of the baggage that he brings. I'm just not 100% convinced, and I understand I've been on this podcast and in my life and on social media, I have bashed the Haslams for sure. But something you said in your rant there was they spend money like nobody else. And you look at what it took for Paul Brown and that family to sign T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and it might run them into the ground. Not literally, but like it took everything they had to get that done. You look at, the Spanos with the Chargers. You look at other, you look at the Athletic article that came out about Woody Johnson and his sons looking at Madden ratings. There are plenty of examples of ownership situations. You look at Jerry Jones and how cheap they've become and what a disaster they've been. You talk about meddling, he's the GM. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to leave this podcast and be like, I like the Haslams and they're good and I'm fine with every decision they've made. But when I'm looking forward into this draft and whatever happens, I want an ownership group that is willing to spend more money than it takes to bring people to a destination that's not, usually a traditional destination for free agents. Because if You take out all of the Watson drama in Michigas, there are some real qualities to him saying, I don't care what it's going to do to my reputation. I will guarantee that we get the quarterback that we need. And if it worked out, he would be a hero. And if Watson didn't come with all that baggage and was good, then everybody would have been praising the decision making and how they did it. And I'm not saying that's right, but I just think there are maybe some qualities that, including just them coming out and saying, and I know they're probably coming out and saying this strategically as well. I'm not naive to think that this organization doesn't think long and hard about how they're being positioned, how they're thinking about the stadium being built, and what they have to do to kind of move forward in the right way. But I'm also just not convinced that they are, as bad as it feels like they've been, especially going forward, and how they're going to pick up the pieces with this team.
Yeah, the entire thing is incredibly nuanced. It's not as black and white, I think, as I would like it, as many of you would like it to be. I don't pretend to think that everything the Haslams have done is bad. I think that they have and when I say they, it certainly feels a lot like Jimmy, and D gets a part in the decisions, but it's a lot of Jimmy.